sponsors. I want to thank Bev Morris and Art Boyers, sponsoring in honor of Debbie Katz, Mindy and Shmuel Tolchinsky, and sponsored to commemorate the Yortzeit of Shmuel's mother, Sarah Rivka Bazev, on the 21st of Sivan. And a mazel tov, and thank you to our sponsors, Carol and Tuvia Lazar, sponsoring in honor of Ricky's bat mitzvah. We look forward to celebrating together when we can be back together in Shul, and unfortunately we're not able to celebrate together in Shul, but a very special mazel tov to you, Ricky, and to the entire Lazar family. So I wanted to touch upon a fascinating element of this week's Parsha. And we know that in this week's Parsha, there is the upside down nuns, which emphasize the psukim of Vayihid bin Soah ha'aron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Hashem v'yafutzu avecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha, that when the Aron would travel, Soah ha'aron Vayomer Moshe, Moshe would say, God will vanquish your enemies. Uvenucho Yomar, and when the Aron would rest, would say, Shuva Hashem Rivavos. Uvenucho Yomar Shuva Hashem Rivavos Alfei Yisrael, is that God should give rest to the thousands of Jews. And the question is, why are there upside down nuns here? What are we highlighting? What's going on? So there's famous machlokas in the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara tells us that there's two approaches. One approach is that we needed to highlight these psukim because they are a sefer chashuv bifnei atzmam. They are so important, these two psukim, that they constitute their own sefer, and the way we demonstrate that is by essentially two nuns on either side. That's one approach. The other approach in the Gemara is that they are in order to separate between two perennios, between two episodes of tragedy, unfortunate episodes. So they needed a separation between these various episodes, and that is why they're broken down with two upside down nuns. So I want to focus primarily on the first understanding in the Gemara, and that is that these psukim constitute a parsha b'fnei atzmo. So, and they're so chashuv. What is so chashuv about these psukim? Obviously, they're important. Vayihid bin Soah ha'aron, but why are they so chashuv? And I saw this year a beautiful idea from the Nesivas Shalom. And he writes, there are different aspects and elements to the Torah. Now, on the one hand, there's mitzvos, commandments, things that we must do. And then there's also divrei musar. There's general life outlook, perspectives, hashkafos, that the Torah informs us that should influence and inform our existence. And he says that these psukim, Vayihid bin Soah ha'aron and Uveshuva, Uvenucho Yomar, these psukim are indicative of a central mindset that we need to be cognizant of as we go through our lives. And what is that? And he says as follows. He says that the Aron, Vayihid bin Soah ha'aron, that's a reference to us, to people as they go through challenge. Bin Soah means you're traveling, you're encountering. Aron is a remez alludes to us because we contain within it, just like the Aron contained within it. The luchos and shivrei luchos is so too we contain within ourselves at Tzelem Elokim, the neshama. And therefore it's a reference to us as we go through life. And he says that, as we go through life, we're going to encounter challenges. And some of those challenges are going to be difficult. And he says that it's not that we're not supposed to encounter the challenge. On the contrary, is that part of life is experiencing nisayon, is encountering challenge, and successfully grappling and dealing with it and hopefully overcoming it. So the first part of the pasuk is telling us, Vayihid bin Soah ha'aron, as we travel, there's a special tefillah, Moshe says. And that is that God should vanquish our enemies. In other words, the path should be clear to allow us to be able to overcome whatever challenge is placed in our path so that we can continue on our life mission and on our life goal. But he says this next pasuk is after we successfully grapple with the challenge, uvenucho yomar, once we reach the state of nachas, the state of menucha, that's when we can reside and revel in our relationship with God. And that is shuva, nucha yomar, shuva Hashem rivavos alpha Yisrael, is that there we can have a special relationship and connection with God after grappling and successfully contending with our struggles and our nisyonos. And he says that this is such a central theme for life that we have to appreciate that we're each on a mission. And in that mission, we're going to have stumbling blocks. We're going to have difficulties. We're going to have challenge. And there's a tefillah that says, let's get through that challenge, but don't shy away from it. Keep your goal, keep your mind on the goal at the end. Keep your mind on overcoming the challenge and being able to successfully achieve uvenucho yomar, that state of nachas, and then enjoy and appreciate that state. So he says this is so central that we have to mark it as a sefer chashuv b'fnei atzmo. This is a life. This is something that should accompany us through life. The idea of constant struggle in the goal of the end of the focus on the goal at the end. And I would just point out is that it's not a one-time event. It's not that you have a struggle, then you overcome it, you achieve, then you're successful, and that's the end. But rather, it's a constant cycle. It's a constant cycle of struggle, overcome the struggle, uvenucho yomar, then there's a moment, a time period of nachas, and then once again, the cycle restarts again. And that's what life is about. This is so critical that it has to be a sefer chashuv b'fnei atzmo, even though it's not a mitzvah. It's not an actual commandment, but it should accompany us through life to appreciate what life is all about, to appreciate that we each have a mission, that we each were placed in this world to accomplish something specific, and there are going to be challenges along the way, and that's okay. That's okay. Just keep on overcoming those challenges and keep on working forward. You know, as we are stuck in our homes, I've had the opportunity every Shabbos. I have a lot less to do on Shabbos, a lot more time now. So I've been going through a lot of my old Svarim and reacquainting myself with Svarim I haven't looked at in years. And one of the Svarim that I came across a few weeks ago is collected essays from Rabbi Eliezer Kaplan. And he was a fascinating guy. He was born in 1890, and he essentially grew up in the Litvish yeshiva world. He started off in the Mussar Yeshiva of Kelm, and then he transferred to Slobodka. And then, as a young man, I think it was his mid to late 20s, he ended up moving to Berlin, and he was a professor of Talmud at the Hildesheimer Seminary until his untimely passing in his early 30s. And he was a brilliant guy and a very deep thinker. And he put together a number of essays and also some songs. And one of the songs that he put together, I think recently they popularized it and added a few stanzas, but the song expresses the struggle of the soul in such beautiful worlds, the struggle of being in this world, trying to accomplish his mission. And I just want to read a few paragraphs from this. I think it's quite powerful. He says, Shaka chama, shaka nafshi. He says, the sun sets, my soul sets. Bitahom yigona harav kayam. In the depths of sorrow, as wide as the ocean. Ki om de lipol hi b'milchamta. Because I know that I'm going to fail my test. Om de lipol, with its challenges. Es habasar ve'es hadam. I will fail all of my challenges. Then he continues on to say, Yamai ovrim, yamai kalim. My days are passing. Mibli kachas, mibli tes, without the ability to successfully achieve. Im lezos karasa chayim, if to this we call life, emorna keli mazemes. God, tell me, what is life? What is death? Very powerful words. But he's describing the struggle. He says, I'm in this world and I'm struggling. Shaka chama, shaka nafshi. I'm struggling. My soul is setting. And he depicts this battle, this gloom of how can I be successful? How can I achieve? I'm faced with such struggle. And that's exactly what this message of this parsha is about. The message is that, of course, you're going to be faced with struggle. Of course, there are going to be challenges. But there's a tefillah to Hashem, Kuma Hashem v'yafutzo evecha, that your enemies should scatter. In other words, you should be able to successfully overcome these challenges. And you should grapple with them to reach the place of a venucho yomar, to reach the tranquility of a venucho yomar, of being able to be in that place of nachas, of menucha. So of course there's a struggle, but that's okay. Particularly now, as we have been on our own for quite some time, some of the struggles intensify. The struggle intensifies. It's hard. We don't have our connection to community to show the same interactions that we typically have. Our entire support system is now gone remote. It's now all about staring into computer screens and virtual interaction. And there is an element of difficulty to it. But on the other hand, some people have become very complacent with that. Perhaps we're comfortable. We don't need to go to davening. We don't need shul. Look at all the great time I have with family now that I didn't have before. And I've heard this sentiment expressed by several people. I just wanted to point out that the other interpretation in the Gemara, the other interpretation was that we had to have the upside down nuns, the separate psukim, in order to differentiate between Piranios and Piranios. And the Gemara then goes on to say, well, what are these two Piranios that we need to separate between? The Gemara says, we understand the Piranios after that's Vayihi Am Kimisonanim, the whole episode of the Am of the Misonanim, the complaining. But what was the Piranios on the front end? What happened there? What happened? What was the tragedy? The Gemara says, it's the tragedy of Vayisu Mehar Hashem, is that Klal Yisrael traveled away from Har Sinai. And there's a debate amongst the Rishonim. What is this referring to? Rashi understands this is referring to the episode of the Mun. The Ramban says it can't be. Chronologically, it doesn't work out. And therefore, the Ramban says, you know what that's referring to? It's referring to the fact that Klal Yisrael, when they left Har Sinai, they left as Ketino Kaboreach Mi Beis HaSefer. They left like a child fleeing school. You know that moment when the bell rings and all of a sudden school is over? And no matter what's going on, the teacher could be mid-sentence, everybody jumps up, grabs their bags, and bolts. That was the issue. The issue is that they didn't have the proper respect for the Maimed. And therefore, the second it was over, boom, they were out of there. And that was a Piranios. That was a terrible thing, according to the Ramban, according to the Medrash. So I think we should be cognizant of that. Cognizant of what we haven't had the experience of these past several months. And as we look forward to reopening, hopefully as of now on Monday, to whatever extent we can, we should be yearning and looking forward to that opportunity to once again be Beveis Hashem, to daven together with a minyan, to be able to have Tefillah B'tzibur, Kaddish, Kedusha, Baruch Hu, all of these things we haven't had for months. That should be something we look forward to, that we've missed, and we should once again want to connect. We don't want to repeat the mistake of Ketino Kaboreach Mi Beis HaSefer. On the contrary, it should be like summer camp. We should be looking forward to it. Something that we should be yearning towards, and our attitude should be, as soon as we can get back, let's all get back, and let's all make this happen again. So this parsha, the upside down nuns, are very informative. They're informative of our life's mission, of our life's goal of not to be deterred and detracted by challenge, but rather to face it head on, keep our eye on the goal, and appreciate that it's cyclical. There'll be challenged in moments of nachas, and then once again challenge, and once again moments of nachas. Don't be discouraged by them, but on the contrary, be encouraged. If you're facing challenge, that means you're heading down, you're going to your mission, and of course you're going to encounter challenge, but the successful overcoming of that challenge will bring about the nachas and will allow us each to complete our own mission. And as we look forward to opening once again and to reuniting to the extent that we can, we should appreciate the beauty that we have as a community, our connection to Klal Yisrael, and our ability to daven b'tzibur b'veis Hashem. Have a wonderful and incredible Shabbos. Stay safe.